RWD6, the idea behind the whole thing is going towards new horizons. We had refined in RWD5 some of the objects inside to clean things up and make them look a little better, look a little bit cooler. And in RWD6, for the most part, we're trying to move to a different philosophy and a different concept. As you know, First Class and First Class Internet Services is a template-based system, and up until version 6 of RWD, a lot of our stuff, all of our stuff, has been based in the template. So we had to code in a template, and we had a little less flexibility than we do with some of the things that I'll show you next, because we've switched from the model of pure templating to separating the data that comes out of the First Class server and separating that from the formatting even further, so that we can use libraries to create the content. So I'll just fly through some of this stuff. We've got new objects, new methods inside this new direction that we're talking about. The first one, and folks, this is my first RWD6 demo, so there's a good number of you there, but I'll ask you to, I know most of you, I think, be patient with me as I kind of muddle through some of these things. But the thing, we always release things the same way. We talk about the categories of function that we've changed, and in the first one, there's not a lot of things we've done differently in the design and layout options. There's the header links, rollover graphics, rounded mashup tabs, and an improved transparent images support. And there's a few more things, but I can't remember exactly what they are at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fly here and just show you some examples of what I just talked about. And the very first thing was the idea that header links, it's just a little thing, but it helps if some people had asked that if in the header links bar you could have it so that when you were actually on a specific link that the background could change. So you can put any graphics behind here. This is a more subtle example, this one on my global control here, that when you go there, I've reversed the image. This gradient that constitutes the back, I've reversed it as an image, and now it just highlights that. It's not a huge deal, but it's still important. The other thing that you'll notice that if you haven't seen this is that the mashup, which is our most potent and powerful feature, has now got the ability to look more Web 2.0-y with the rounded corners and that look and feel. And those can be formatted independently, so that you could have one column with round, one column with square if you wanted to do that. We've had a few odd places where we've needed to do things like that. So you can, the mashup tabs themselves are more easily formatted, and we have a few things still to go before we finally release RWD6 to be able to do some nice things with the tabs to change the design and that sort of thing. And the support for transparent images is just, it's something perhaps that you wouldn't even notice unless you need to design the site, and I've been doing a lot of site design lately, and I've needed these things, so these were really for me, and that was the ability. RWD is quite deep in the layers that go onto a page, and previously we didn't pay too much attention to the ability to see through all those layers to the background, but as we've moved forward, a lot of times the background is very much an integral part of the design of the website, as in the case of here is this Richmond School District. This logo and the objects and the header links bar is basically floating on back of the background of the page, so there's no visible object here, it's just the links are just there, and you can see the background through it. So just some subtle but important things to improve the designability of the website. And at the end here, I'm going to show you a few sites that I've been working on recently that sort of hopefully will challenge you to look at your own sites and say, wow, we could really make these, you know, we could take advantage of some of these features and make our sites even look better. Here's another quick example of a site that's got transparency floating across the background, just to give it just a sort of a slight design change. And I hear people binging. I guess people are joining at the moment. Okay, so back to these are the kind of the graphic and layout options that we've changed that I can remember. And there are a few subtle ones that'll be added to this list before when we're finally all said and done. Where we've made sort of the most change is the content objects. And if you recall, in RWD5 we introduced the the rotating preview container and a conference slider, so you could look at conference information a number of different ways. We started out just with a simple list, but way back in version 3 or 2 even of RWD, and we've improved and add a whole bunch more in the arsenal of ways to push content out to the various sites inside your organization that's coming straight from conferencing. And you'll see some really important improvements. So I'm going to look at these, and I'm very quickly, the listing here is the document slideshow, a content library. We've improved the RSS link. The priority calendar object, which some of you are already using, this was a sort of a 5.5 object, but I thought I'd mention it for those of you who haven't seen it. The calendar widget, which is going to blow your mind. Digital signs, which I think are important. Feedback forms, and the gallery slideshow. So I'm going to show you these things sequentially here as we go through. I'm going to make, I've got 2 screens going, so I want to see if I can make sure I keep all my content in one place or another. And I'm just going to put this up here, and bear with me as I get ready to go. I'm just going to get some content so that I have it to post if I need it. Okay, so these objects, the first thing is the document slideshow, and you'll see that in this here, I'm going to go back to gray burn middle, and the document slideshow is a new object that we created, and again, it was created in version 5.1 essentially, but we've really improved how it works and how it functions. And this object here that you're seeing on my screen, I think, is the document slideshow. Now, it's not currently in a slideshow mode because I've stopped it, but I can start it whenever I want. And what it's going to do is it's going to go through a conference and read the documents or the pictures. This thing you're seeing here is just a JPEG of my little RWD6 fantastical logo here. But I'm going to start it, and now it's going to go through a conference and start to look at the documents. And the transitions are governed by a configuration form, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. And all this thing is doing is just going in, and the image you see is, again, in this configuration, I've said I'd like a background image for all the documents to slide over top of or to fade. There's a fade transition. So these are just documents, and the click me just tells me that if I click on this thing, what it's going to do is it's going to open up a window. And now this is an ugly document. It's an ugly document for a reason. It's just content. It's ugly because I've added every possible bell and whistle to the document that I could think of. And what I did is I attached a PDF to this document. I've attached my voice in first class, just using the voice recorder in first class that will play. And by putting it in the message, it'll also autoplay. It's a printable document. And just the document content. Down here, I've got an MP4. This is a 18 meg MP4. And when I play the file, you see that it goes quite quickly and starts to play, to stream the video content from my little server back in Toronto, which I'm not there. So I'm going to pause that. And it also supports all of the embedding and things like that that you've come to expect in the RWD web pages themselves. So there's a YouTube file that's embedded inside, and that could be any web content whatsoever. So that will just pop up because it's within the document that's in the slideshow. The top of it's formatted to look nice on that background, so I've used this blue text and I think a white title. And we've done this with the First Class website itself, and there's a good example of that there. So that'll open up the document as I see it. Now, in behind, this slideshow was running, and on this particular one, we've introduced a new capability in RWD6 that says instead of, I might not want to open up the document itself, I might want to open up some other URL. And in this case, it's a YouTube video. So if I have another URL slated in there inside the conference, there's an easy way to do it. When I click on this, instead of opening up the document that's in First Class, it's going to go out to the web and get the URL that I call, in this case, a YouTube document or slideshow or movie. So I don't suppose it's a good idea to ask if there's any questions. I'm counting on you, Gary, to jump in if you feel there's a moderating that needs to happen. Gary and I work well that way. He usually shuts me up. So that's the doc. What's that?
Oh, I was just going to say, I do want to encourage questions. Go ahead and put them in the chat, and I will relay them to Mark as we go. The one question we have had so far is whether we're going to record the session, and the answer on that is yes. So this will be available if you want to share it with other people in your organization after the webinar is finished.
And we also recorded last week's, or at least most of it. Gary forgot to push record for about 8 minutes, but other than that, it will be posted, and we'll make you aware of where that is. It'll be both on my site and on Gary's site. So the document slideshow can show or not show the controls. It's easy enough to configure, and using these configuration forms that are on there. And I'll kind of get to that in a minute. Now I've got to remind myself where I was. So document slideshow. Now the content library is a really exciting thing because it is an addition that allows the blog posting, which is a basic philosophical tenet of our idea of good web publishing. The idea that you don't make a lot of pages. Instead, what you do is you post content to messages, and then you render those messages out. And that's the way the web is working more and more these days. So that the website is basically a framework for a lot of dynamic content that's coming out, and that's true both at the district level, at the school level, and at the teacher level. That it's a much more efficient way to publish to the web just by posting incremental additions to the content that's there. So the content library is now a default. Previously, if you had more messages in a conference than we're displaying, say in a mashup, you would get a listing of all the messages. But if the listing of messages is sort of a lot of messages, it can be a little difficult to try to find what you're looking for. So what we've done is when you look at the listing of the view, you see that this is a content library. It's different than the previous version, that's what you're currently using, in that it now has menus and pagination and a few other things, and all of these things are configurable in a form where you fill out and say, I want the filter by title, or I don't want the filter by title. You can sort the listing any way you want, and it'll resort it. You can show any number per page. The default is this part of this configuration form that I'll show you later. So I might want 10 per page. Now you'll see there's 10 items that are listed down this thing. And these are all just readable. The read more will allow me to look at whatever's in the message, and I click on that, and this is an old message from somewhere before, and it'll pop up in a light box, again, fully functional, printable, etc. But I can now find things that I'm looking for. So I know that I'm looking for something. I had a boat posting that I did a little while ago, and I'm looking if there's any information about this is the wrong conference for that. I do think, though, that there is, let me see. I'm going to have to go down and find something. I'm interested in something about vacations. So vacation. As I start to multi-match, all the things that are in the title that multi-match with what I'm typing will now show up, regardless of how many items are in this list. So it's a very, very fast, filterable, sortable set, and really powerful. I also mentioned we improved the RSS. We didn't actually improve anything about the RSS feed itself. That works fine. But it was a little confusing. When you click the RSS button, it simply opened the RSS in a browser window, and not a lot of people knew what the heck to do with that. So what we've done instead is now when you click RSS, it opens up a nice, easy little a little sort of information panel that you can, by the way, configure for your server as well to be different than this, but this is what comes out of the box. Tells you a little bit about RSS, tells you can open the feed itself, or you can take this feed and put it in your phone or any other device that'll read an RSS feed, and then you've got the feed coming. So parents can aggregate different teachers' homework or the district news, etc. So we just tried to make it easier to use. So the content library, this object is really powerful. Right now you're seeing it in one configuration, but we can configure this to show the entire document or part of a document. We can change the size of the images behind, so you can get a really wide variation on how that looks. And I'll go back to the page, but also show you that the content library also works directly in a mashup. So here's a web page I've got where I don't really want to make anyone click to see all the items. Every item in the conference, every item is available right from the home page. I can simply go through the listings here and see the different posts. There's that Maxim boat I was looking for. Or I can simply filter it right out of the page. And if I'm looking for the Maxim boat, there it's now filtered the two that match Max right again in the page itself. So you don't even have to go into a full listing. So it's a very powerful object, this content library, and it doesn't have any higher overhead than the current conference listing. We've just run some extra features on top of it. So I'm quite
Mark, we've
pleased.
got
Oops, I'm quite pleased about that.
Mark, we've got a couple good questions about the content library. So,
yep.
Okay, great. If now's a good time. The first is when there are individual posts, images that are attached, will show as a file name in the preview. And the question is, is this a limitation of first class, or is that something that can be fixed in RWD, or how does that work?
Well, the way to fix it is simply this, and I guess it's a workaround at best, but it is a limitation of first class. It's not something, and I'm not even going to really call it a limitation, because a preview is just that. It's a text preview. The way that it works, and people really don't have much trouble with this once they get used to it, is that the preview is only some number of characters long. You just put your images below that, and you can use document formatting to change the layout of the pictures so that it doesn't appear that the pictures are all pushed way down, but in fact work just fine. For instance, you see this RWD is making touchdowns. You don't see any information in here that looks bad, like links and texts and things like that. But in fact, this thing is replete with text, and it's not very. You don't have to wait very long down the document before you start getting text and graphics and tables and things like that. So you just have to have enough of a buffer at the top so that your preview makes sense. That's probably not the best answer you wanted to get, but that's the answer.
Sure. A couple other questions. There's a question here from George. Can we search for content? Will it or can it develop a searchable index of content, including attachments?
Well, you can search for content using another thing that I was going to talk a little bit about later. Content is, now, I'm not sure if I've got this thing on here. Let's see. Right. We built right in, I don't know if you saw that. I was just making it work before I made a big, bold statement about it. But we've also added, and I will gloss over this later, we've added a couple of widgety things that you can add to your global banner or your global header links, where you can put a Google search. And you can deploy this at one time in the global control form for all the schools, and each school's search will look in that particular school's domain. So you're asking about the searchable index. I mean, I'm looking for something to do with touchdowns. This is how you do that. This does not look at the content itself, and there's a reason for that. If I have 100 messages with a lot of content in them, the browser has to load all of that content before it can find anything. So if you're not putting, let me rephrase that. So what it is loading a thumbnail, it's loading a title, a date, and a little bit of content, which is very fast, even for 1,000 messages. That's not a lot of content for a browser to load. But if it had to load all the documents and all the pictures and the things that you wanted before you could look at it, and the browser would have to do that, you might be waiting several minutes before content was useful to you as a user, and people won't tolerate that. So my advice is put something useful in the preview or in the title that will help people find your stuff. And a quick example of that, by the way, does that answer that question as best I can? Did I miss something on the question?
No, I think that, so to summarize, this is similar to the approach within First Class. There's the filter that is kind of the quick filter based on the content that's already loaded up, and then you have the search that will find your attachments and content that wasn't in the preview.
Yep. And since I'm showing since I'm showing the widgets anyway, so you saw that I could find the thing. We've also added Google Translate to RWD, so you can just sort of select it. And what it does is it adds the Google Translate bar to the top. And this is just kind of a little demo of the fact that we don't use frames except where we have to. We use them when you open things sometimes to control how things work. But you see all this content. If I, for instance, want to translate this to Chinese traditional, which is the most dramatic one I can find, you'll see that the links themselves change, drop-downs change, the things that it knows how to change, and so do conference items and previews and listings and everything. So the translate works, and that's really kudos to Google, but this is showing that we are bringing all this content using Ajax, as opposed to framing. bringing the content in. So just a quick example of another use of the content library that's powerful. Bear with me. Shoot, Grayburn, here we are. A lot of times you want to push documents out to the web. This is a nice feature. See, if I've got reports for download, if I'm looking for social networking and I don't see it immediately, by the way, my default to 3 per page. There's a long list of documents here that are in here, but I'm looking for something to do with social networking or the most recent board meeting or however you want to organize that. This makes listings of PDFs really slick, because now when I click on that, I'm getting the PDF as opposed to the document, and I can deliver reports and documents really nicely to the web that way.
Very nice. And then one last question on the RSS feed. Is there still a limit in the number of characters that can be displayed in the RSS link, I guess that is?
You know what? That's a question I would have to get. If you send it to me, I'll get you the right answer. I think one of my team will know that better than I do. I'm afraid I don't know the answer to that. I hate saying that, but I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know. I'll make note and we can send that out afterwards.
Yeah. Okay, so content library I think is very powerful, and I'm pleased with how it's working. There's a few things that some of you, that a lot of people will like in this. So improved RSS, the priority calendar object, I was just there. For those of you who don't know what it is, I'll just show you this really quickly. That I can go to first class and I can put a link or an event into Control A, Control C. I can put a link into, say, a school calendar or any calendar that's out on the web. I gotta find it first on my desktop here, on the school calendar, and I'll put this in today for this afternoon. Cool event for demos, and it's just a regular item, and I'll put some content in there, and I save and close. And if I go back to the web and load this thing, you'll see that on today's events shows up the cool demo for, it should show up. I may have to change the time. Yes, I did it for 9 a.m. this morning, so no matter what I do, it won't show up in the priority. But even if it was later, it won't show up in the priority calendar listing until I do something to the message event. So I'm going to go back to the calendar here really quickly and open up this event. First thing I want to do is change the time to later on this afternoon, so I don't, so this works. Let's go to, it's 5 p.m. tonight. That's the cool event time. And I have, in order to turn this thing into a priority event, I turn it into a priority event, make it urgent. And now that that object is, or that message, that calendar event is urgent, it will now allow itself to show up in the priority calendar view, which is here. So it's going to change itself to 5 o'clock here, but it'll also show up. Cool event for demos, there it is. In fact, New Year's Day got bumped off the list because I've only chosen to show the next 4 priority events. But there's this event, and when I click on it, it just opens up and shows me the calendar event with all the content in it that I had before. A lot of people don't use the content in the calendar, but it's a terribly powerful way to deliver content, attachments, homework, anything. Calendar is very potent that way. All right, so the next item you're going to see, I think, will blow your minds, I think. I hope. All right, so calendars are important. We've got a number of different ways. This priority calendar is a really cool new addition, but we're really quite excited about this. This is our calendar widget, and I'm going to show you this for a few minutes to show you some different views of it. But you'll see that there's my cool event for demos that I created just now. I'm all looking at the same calendar. And if I wanted to look at that event, or what's new in RWD 6, this is the meeting that we're having right now, I can click on that item and it'll open up, tell me where it is, when it is, and if I want more information, I can click on that and I get the event in full fidelity out on the web in the Lightbox, and again, printable, attachable, and all that sort of stuff. The calendar widget's quite cool in that it allows me to go infinitely through time. And now calendars have back and forth. If I can incrementally step through sort of periods, or I can just hold the scroll bar up and it'll keep loading back in time or forward in time, going the other way. And then if I want to, I can just I'll go further There isn't much in the future here. So now I'm into 2013, and I want to go back to today. So I just click on today, and it takes me back to the day's events. And if I wanted to search for a specific date in the future, like New Year's Day, let's go 31st. We should see there's the December 31st, and then New Year's Day is showing up. So the calendar widget's a really powerful way. It's very similar to the Google Calendar widget in that it allows me to have a listing of all the calendar events and yet still have all the potency of the calendar. Now, I'll just whip to a calendars page to show that another really neat feature of this, and this will give maybe a sigh of relief to some of you out there who have some pressure. This is that same calendar that I was just looking at. I'll refresh this page just to make sure it's got all the same events. It should be. And it's looking at a first-class calendar. But you can configure our calendar widget to look at a Google Calendar or an iCal calendar. So this is Google Calendar, and it works the same way. The only difference, obviously, is if I click More Info, it's going to go to Google and show me the material, not first class, not RWD. It doesn't have the content there. But this widget is agnostic to the type of calendar within the three that I just mentioned. And that leads to another thing that we've added to RWD, and that's the digital sign. We added this in version 5, but we've kind of augmented it. And it, too, is able to look at first class or Google calendars. And I believe iCal, I don't know whether we got that working or not. But the calendar, the Google Calendar, the first class calendar, is the source for the digital sign. And what it does is it looks at a specific and this is meant for lobbies and things like that. It's designed to be shown full screen with no menus, and because of that, there's no way to control it from once it's turned on. So you don't need to refresh the page to show changes. The calendar will actually go back and pull first class for changes. So it'll scroll through, and it's configurable with backgrounds and graphics and things like that to be able to render a calendar for a given day, and it knows when an event is in session. It calculates itself, and so this is what's going on, and then you can see the entire day's events. And then over here on the right-hand side, you can put in widgets, weather widgets, all sorts of stuff. And in this particular case, I've just framed in an RWD web page that has some documents that are just going through in a document slideshow. Very, very simple, and yet very powerful, because you can put this up and you kind of set it and forget it. You don't need to do any special training. You just publish the content to the areas that are involved in first class, and then the digital sign will just sort of fix itself. Now I'm going to go back to my script here just to make sure that I'm keeping things calendar widget, digital signs. If they have any questions about digital signs, yep.
Yes, Mark, there is one. Is a digital sign accessed from a particular URL?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it has a URL. Yes. Yes. I think do I understand the question correctly? Anything on the web has to have a URL.
Right. I think that addresses the question.
Okay. But if there's some meaning behind that I didn't understand, let me know and I'll address it.
We just got confirmation. That's the answer he was looking for.
Oh, okay. Good. Okay, so the next thing I think you're also going to like a lot, and I don't know whether to show you a real example or a fake example. I think I'll show you a fake example right now. This is any of the sites that share this global banner, and you can do this from anywhere. You can do this down at the teacher level if you wish. But a lot of people have been asking us for forms and feedback kinds of forms. In this particular case, I'm using, I think it's here. No, that's not the right one. It's here. Oops, sorry. Yeah, I want to get this, where is it? I can't remember exactly. I think it's in here. I'm just not being patient. Oh, yeah, hold on. Okay, so I'm clicking, oops, I just have to, I have a small window here, so. What I did is I clicked on a send us some feedback link, and that link opens up does a bunch of stuff. What we do is RWD6 will create a guest account on your server, and we lock it down in every respect. It's not allowed to do anything but log in through the web, and it can only send messages to conferences that are within a certain group. So it is a very impotent account, important and impotent. And the form that it opens up can be configured. This one has got all the fields available, but it has a title. It has an explanation area where you can type what the purpose of the form. You can add graphics. This has got a background graphic and a logo-y kind of a graphic, and it collects data. And the data, I'll fill this out very quickly. The data name is RWD6 demo is my name. My email is rwd@rwd.com. You can also enforce validation. We haven't sort of finished that entirely. We didn't like the fact that it was doing it on a field-by-field basis, but you can make fields required, and you can make them or not required, and you can hide the fields, and you can give them different labels. You can give them different data types. So the subject is showing off feedback, and I think this should solve a lot of your problems. By the way, this will carry all sorts of content. I just pasted an entire message in there that I had on my clipboard, and you can create drop downs easily. So I'm interested in Rapid Web Designer. Yes, I'm already a site. When did I hear it? And this is a date control. So I heard about it. Let's say I heard about it on the 12th. And what's my favorite color is blue. And do I have a pet? No, not at the moment. And my website is http://www.firstclassdepot.com. And when I'm done that, I click send, and it's using this guest account to create a message that goes into a conference. And what we've done is we've formatted the conference. Here's my web feedback conference, and this is part of a conference group where we can list things in a listing. We have a custom columns, so that all the field data that was just sent is now in a column. And if I go all the way across, you see all the fields that I just answered are now here. So if I was looking, say, for a particular piece, so I was looking for something from somebody. There's something to do with Buffalo I'm looking for. See, now as soon as I start typing that, the two responses to my feedback that have Buffalo in the preview will show up. So in addition to that filter capability, and in addition to the fields that you request on your form, we also give you some other data that's just coded into the system itself. One of those is where they were when they clicked, which site they were at when they clicked this functionality, and what IP address they were at. So if somebody was abusing the system, you would have a very good way of getting back, finding out where they were actually doing this from. Any questions about that? Okay. Just to show you very quickly what that looks like in the first class side, I have to find it.
Mark, we do have a question here. The question is, can you easily export the form data into a spreadsheet or database?
You can export messages, and they'll have some. Here's what the message looks like. It has the content of the message, and then down below it there's a line, and all the field data comes like this. It's not super easy. We are going to offer for sale and I mean based on the interest, that is, an FCAS version of this capability that in fact you can. We have the ability to take conference material like this and using FCAS turn it into data, pure data. And so we have that capability now. We're thinking of tying that together with a better forms generator, even more sophisticated than the one we've built for free with RWD, where you'll be able to do that. But you can export this content. And Gary, yeah, you can export this content, and then you can, with a little bit of work, get the data out of it. But it is not a full-blown data system like we would plan to be able to sell as a form system. It's more of a quick way to get back and information back into the system. And just by way of quick example, here's an actual one that is going to be deployed this next week in a district in Ontario that is about bullying. And so the superintendent wants a bullying form, and this is, so when you click this, each school is going to have a version of this that will go both to the school and then be centrally aggregated by the district as well. So this is an actual form that's going out from the district. So that's the kind of use it has.
Great. And Mark, if I may, one comment, and then there are a couple more questions. When you're looking at the list view of the responses, and you've got the custom columns there.
Yep.
You can export the full object. You also do have the ability to do a select all and save as text, and that will capture all the content that is displayed in the column
list.
view.
Yeah.
Right. So that's another quick way to get it to Excel format. So,
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. 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 Okay.
Yeah. A couple other questions here. We have one question: is the feedback form available in RWD 5 or 6?
Say that again. Sorry, I won't bother with this right now.
That's
Say
right.
that.
Is that version 5, or do we have to upgrade to 6 to get that form?
It's upgrade to 6.
Okay, great. And then another question here: is it one feedback conference for all the forms, or do you have separate conferences per form?
Any combination that you wish. You can have multiple conferences or a single conference. I mean, I favor single conferences because then you can, instead of having a label like additional F field 2, additional field 3, you can use your own custom schema to give them meaningful labels and lay out what data that you're actually collecting. This is our generic one that just sort of shows everything that's going in. I'll just spend another minute or two on this and show you how that's configured. And I was going to talk about configuration forms. Actually, I'll show you a quick slide about that. And then, not that it's a huge deal, but I'll get right to here. I want to show you a few things. For instance, the calendar, that calendar widget that we created, it sort of, there's a default view, and you can do this on a site-wide basis so that users do not have to call any custom configuration form, but you can also override it individually at every page. You can say, well, I want a special look and feel for this particular object. So you introduce the thing that we've created, these configuration forms, and this goes back to what I was saying earlier, is that all of the new development in RWD is taking it out of the templates, moving it to the a situation where we just take JSON data from the server and then we pass it through a library. And the library configures it for the web. A lot of people still aren't comfortable configuring libraries and setting variables. So we've built forms that take the most of the variables available for a particular library and allow you to, in sort of WYSIWYG and easy, not WYSIWYG, but easy field-based changes to that library. So once you add the configuration, you say, well, I want different buttons, I want a different color, and that sort of thing, then it will configure, it will match itself to however you configure that form. So so that's the configuration form, and that's how we also run the feedback the same way. Let me go back to first class here. I just gotta get where I was. Desktop. That should get me. So when you want to create one of these things, they're an administration object, and this is a public feedback config form. So when you add that to your site, you can put it anywhere. You can give it to a user. It opens up a form that allows you to define the form you want to show on the web. I will talk a little bit about portals, but you can set whatever user ID and password you want this thing to use. We, like RWD guests, we defaulted that. We created on the site. There's a few things. You know, when we help you with upgrading, we configure all of this so that it works nice and easy. But when you're logged into a portal, an RWD portal, it automatically stops using that account, the guest account, and uses whatever account the user is logged in as. So you can actually get real information from authenticated users and know who they are without them being able to, having to put their name in there. But you can put the title for the form, a description, a logo, the style that you want to use, the font styles and things like that. And then there's 4. If you don't do any configuration form, it automatically creates one that has just got 4 fields in it: name, email, subject, and message. And they are included. But you then have these other fields, 6 more fields, and we debated about how many. We just stopped at 6 because we didn't want to make it too complicated. If somebody says we absolutely have to have a 7th field, let us know before we finish this, and we'll add a 7th field. But you can include or not include specific fields. So I don't want to include these 2, and I want to include that one. You say what type it is, number, date, text, or drop-down list. And then if you want to preset like a drop-down list, you can just option 1, semicolon, option 2, and it'll create a drop-down list for you. And you can say whether it's required or not. So that's how you create those forms. And the way you call those forms, don't save. Oh, I can't close it unless I save it. The way you call those forms in the link is simply to, I'll show you an RWD, all of your RWD users. I believe it's here in the About Us link somewhere. No, it's not there. It's in my global control. Sorry, folks. I'm still working through this. I've got to switch forms for the global control real quick. I always regret when I open up a can of worms and I have to follow through on the can of worms. But in this site, the global control, I've kept it non-hidden here. And I'm flying around here to get you. There's the public feedback config form that I created for this particular thing. And the call is simply this. Send us a message. I name the conference, and it has to be a member. It has to be in the directory and available for message sending. And I just tell RWD which configuration form I want to use for that. So it gives me the right fields, collects the right data, and looks the right way. Good enough? I think I've beaten that one to death.
There are two, we'll keep this high level, but two high-level questions. One from John, who's currently using Google Forms, so the data goes right through a spreadsheet, and he's asking, will that be coming in first class or RWD? Is that on the roadmap?
As I said, if with the app that we're talking about building, yes, you'll need to run a database in behind an FCAS application. The other option, though, is that I'll answer part of what I wanted to demonstrate anyways. Will also answer that. If you're using Google Forms to show content, Limestone District School Board, back to Grayburn here, you can frame that same thing if you wish. For instance, remember I told you that I could, using that alternate URL instead of URL, instead of opening the document itself, I can go to some other place. So if I click full story, I know on this one, the Read a Lot program, instead of going to the document, oh, this was an example for Hillsborough that I just did. That's not what I meant to do. It can open up any website. It can open up your Google survey right then and there. Just say, take our survey, and it'll open up in a window the website itself. Does that answer the question?
I think that's a good answer. Yep. Thank you.
And was there anything else on that?
There was one other. Maria noticed, I guess she went to the site and noticed that it took a few seconds to display the form. It was asking if a message could be displayed like, please wait while loading the form. And actually, Maria, I should probably ask, was that, I know that GoToMeeting sometimes lags. Had you gone directly to the website, or was it a delay when you were watching the presentation?
There's definitely a delay. There is a delay because it's going through an authentication process. But that's not a bad idea. I'll see if we can do that.
Okay.
Suggestion. Yeah, that would make some sense. Loading or authenticating.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Great.
Was that Maria from Limestone?
Yes, and she said thank you.
Okay. Okay. All right. So where was I? Okay. Just real quick, the alternate URL, you can open up the document itself. As case in point, here. And I'm running out of time, and I don't want to lose it. So that opens up the. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. I mean the document itself. Just like you always could when I click full story, you can open up an alternate URL as well. In this particular case, this is I think it's a YouTube for a McGregor Public Schools. Yeah, so you can run it that way. So it just gives you some more flexibility on your sites. Now we really are running out of here, so I'm going to go back through here. I just want to make sure I've covered my main points here. Priority calendar, digital signs, feedback forms. Oh, this one you're going to like a lot, and then I think I'll just show you some stuff we've done. So you all are familiar with the graphics gallery, and I think some of you have given us some grief about the fact that you don't like it as much as you like other things. So when I click this, I'm going to go to a graphics gallery, just like before. And it looks the same way. It lays it out and everything else. But you didn't have this. This is new. So this is now going to look at the graphics gallery and generate a slideshow of the images inside. And this is a very large image that you just saw, and the next one is very small. By large, I mean thousands of pixels. These are 800, 900 pixels, and the slideshow just sort of knows how to go through. And we're going to build a configuration so you can change the transition speed, the default transition speed, and the transition. I think there's two methods you can use with this particular library. So this is, I hope, going to set a lot of people applauding through from teacher complaints saying, well, I want a nicer way to show my pictures and things that are going on. This is built right into Graphics Gallery. It'll be available as just like this, but it'll also be available as a call itself, so that instead of going to the gallery and then clicking slideshow, it will automatically open up the slideshow right in the window. Hopefully that got some happy people somewhere. And okay, so those are the main ones. I'm just going to confirm that I've got our new methods. I've told you about the fact that we're using libraries. The alternate URL is quite powerful. It allows me to separate myself from the document that I'm posting. And I think I'm going to leave the other things. You've seen pretty much most of those kinds of things. I just want to take you now to a couple of websites to show you some content. And some of the new looks and feels that you can create if you we've gotten better at making websites. So this is a sample teacher's website, and I'm going to get to this teacher's website in a portal in a minute, but right now I'm just showing you that I can take that teacher website and I can push it into a lot of different looks and feels, and the content stays separate. This is nothing new to you, but just if you look at it, it just looks good. You can, and the folks from out from in Northern Gateway, this is a terrible thieving of a design that you guys like from another web system, but you can see that RWD can accomplish pretty close to anything you want to graphically, and the content now is remaining the same, but it's really got a lot of different jackets on it, and I think that it's pretty powerful that way. Another thing, and I'll show you the portal at the end here, but this is a site that we're building actually for one of Gary's customers, and hopefully they like it. These are just some designs done recently that are RWD that give you kind of a sense that the product can look different ways and look powerful, or look a lot like other kinds of systems that you might envy at a tenth or so of the price in general. And as you all have seen the First Class website. By the way, just a quick example, there's a rotating document slideshow that's being used by First Class to just display little tidbits of information, and then when you want to click on something more, etc. This is on my training server, but it'll pull up the document, and away it goes. So then the last thing I want to show you is our portal, and because I think I'm running out of time here, if I'm not correct. My iPhone keeps going to sleep, but yes, I've got another 12 minutes. So this is just to show off some ways of putting content out there that look good. First of all, before I do the portal, I'm going to take you to an athletics site. This is just those of you who are wondering if you can use RWD for your athletics sites. I constructed this as a demo. This is the homepage of the athletics site, the athletics director. The athletics calendar is got all of the teams' calendars in it. Now this only has one team, really, the football team, and so the games and things like that will come into the athletics calendar from the team calendars. And of course, when you put information in the calendar, you can put where the location is. You can embed a Google map, and it's printable. So you've delivered really one of the key things that athletics sites need right off the bat, just right out of the box. And I'm going to go to the teams. I think I have a teams directory here, and just show you that down inside each individual team can have its own website. They all go to football, so it doesn't matter what I click. And the football team has got information about the coaches, the team, the calendar, the news that's related to the team. And if you used a priority calendar, you could have just games showing and practices not showing, but practices showing perhaps in another place. So there's a whole bunch of things you can do with that. One of the things, this is actually in use in one of our districts. They really like the idea. All of the coaches of all of the different teams have an email address of a conference that's available to all of them, and when the match is over, they simply email the scores to the conference, and then that's immediately directed out to the web. So there's a score ticker for all of the games going on in the district, and it's just kind of centrally located. So now I'm going to go to the portal here. So I want to log into a portal. We've beefed up the methodology for making portals significantly, and So here's an example. I'm going to log in as a parent. I've got a parent account on my system, so it's P Romano, and Paula gave me let me use her name, and she's going to log in. So she's got she shares with all other parents a common home screen for parents. They're, welcome from the superintendent, news that's common to all the parents, and that sort of thing. The thing that's different in this is that in each individual, first of all, it also welcomes her by name, knows that she's logged in. And we've got an FCAS application that's in use at all Intangi schools, especially. That's the place I can think of most, where FCAS goes and drops documents that are related to grades and other kind of information for each student into a container for every student, and the parents have access to that. So this shows that she has this is a document that lists the 2 students that she has, and she can click on that and go to the students' website, and this is a private school where the students have websites, and the students' website also has the classes and homework put on it. So Samantha student here goes to her, she has her blog and that sort of thing, and when she wants to check her homework, or her parents want to check her homework, remember I'm logged in as Paula, her mom right now, I can go directly to Humanities 9, and this is a class website. This is a nice example of a course website that has all the information right up front, what the homework is due, files that I might need, what's due today through the calendar, about the class, a syllabus, and all of this is really, really easy to publish because we pre-template the site out. The teacher just has to fill in the content and send messages for homework, and it works really, really easily. That opened up in a new window, so I can go back to Samantha Students world here, and there's homework information in her calendar. There's a lot of different varieties that you can do, and Paula can always click on home screen and go back to her main page, and then she can go, for instance, and see her other son or her other child, Sam student. Now, that's a useful way to get information out to parents, and they don't have to know anything about first class. And in fact, I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to go into first class, and I'm going to just point something out. If I was a teacher, the parents are in my directory, and I can send something that's to Paula Romano. There she is. Oh, she's online right now. She's in the portal. Hi, Paula. I hope we can meet next week on Gary's poor grades. Okay, so, and, need to meet. And I send it. Now, the parent doesn't use first class. It would be nice if when they logged into the portal, and you can also configure mail rules that will send a notification saying something's in the portal, the mailbox right when she logs in says, oh, need to meet, and she reads it. It's coming from, we hide who it's coming from because we don't want parents to have directories and things like that. We could put it if you wish. You can put the sender, but usually people know there's a limited number of people they're talking to inside the system. You can reply, and then you'll go, once you were going to go and reply, you can see that it's being sent to me, and you can see what I wrote originally. And the reply form is very much simplified. It doesn't have a directory. It doesn't have. She can't send it anywhere else. It's just a reply. Thank you. Yes, I will meet on Thursday, and sends. Teacher gets that, and there's a listing of all the mail that Paula has received and what she's sent. And the teacher gets that. Just whip back in my mailbox here. There's the message. I say, oh, okay, so we're meeting on Thursday, so I can simply go into my calendar, and then I can very quickly meet, let's say it's Thursday, meet with Paula, read Gary, and my participants, Paula Romano, save and close. And now, when we go back to the web, if I did this thing correctly, when Paula logs in next time, in fact, in her calendar, she should have something on the, there it is, the 29th, Thursday. Oh, it says, I have to refresh the page, but it will show up. I have another from another earlier demo. And that just shows that the calendar event that's going on and where it's happening. So we've tried to make portals easier to manage, easier to use, and a few things like that. In addition to the portal, you can go directly to any social media communities that you have using the same authentication. It opens up a new window, but it uses your authentication, logs you in, and if you have any communities that are there. You'll be logged directly into your social media component of First Class. And I don't think she has any communities. Oh, nope, nothing, just sitting there. But that same login, that same authentication is valid. And you can also let people have full views of First Class, but inside the context of the portal. So the thinking around portals has been more sophisticated. There's the First Class desktop, and I can do all the things I can do with First Class on the web, but I always have this wrapper that keeps me clear as to where I am, and I can always go back to my home screen. And at the end of it all, when I'm finished my session, I can click log out, and it gracefully exits without making me go to other windows and all sorts of stuff, and takes me back to a place. And I think I've got an autoplay of a superintendent's message. Yeah, that I'll turn off. And I think that I'm out of time.
Yeah, we're right at 2 o'clock, so thank you. There are a couple general questions that we probably should cover real quickly, so we'll try to get these knocked up pretty quickly. First, what version of First Class is required for RWD 6?
It will run on version 10 and 11, but it's not even so much the First Class as much as it is the internet services that, and it's which specific versions, different specific versions have sort of different bugs in them relating to certain features that we've built. So our answer is always try to stay as current as you can in First Class, but we can't. It will work in version 10. It's all, but not in 9, the new stuff. But having said that, RWD 6 will work in First Class 7 or 8, but features won't work that we've developed that rely on certain components of internet services and certain server functionality. But we try to make sure that it works backwards as much as we can.
Okay, good, good. Related to that, how will First Class version 12 impact RWD since First Class will be moving to Apache?
Okay, well, First Class is adding Apache. It's not entirely moving to Apache. The client is going to become, there's a new client, and the new client is going to be a web-based client. It will have Forms capability, and we will, not in this version, but you will be able to edit your website using the new client. But just like First Class, some of the administrator features, it would just be too cumbersome to try to build all the things out into a web version when you don't touch them very often. So just like First Class, some of your administrator functions in RWD will still be client. And the client isn't going away, the current client as we know it. It's just going to be augmented by a much more user-friendly, webby-looking interface.
Right. And Mark, if I may add to that, so pragmatically, when 12 comes out, sites will continue running the core First Class and First Class internet services like they have today. And sites that are using RWD can use internet services both for SMTP mail as they are today and to continue serving their RWD pages. And then the new web client logins that are Apache-based, those would run through the Apache server as a separate service.
That's right. And down the road, we will probably, we've been talking with the engineers developing First Class 12 for 9 months now, and we will probably in the long run move RWD off of internet services to the new First Class. But it's not an immediate thing, and there's enough questions that I don't have answers to that I can't say more than that. But we think that we'll see some performance improvements as well as some functionality improvements, but we really need it to be out for a little while, used for a little while. It becomes, sort of just to get to know it a little bit better as a community, all of us, and then see where it goes, and then we'll have a better answer as to how we're going to integrate what we do with it.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, and again, we're running a little bit long, so I'm going to try to keep the answers short here, but when will RWD6 be available?
Well, most of it's available now. I mean, if you were a new customer that was signing up, you get almost everything that you've seen. We just do things that way. It's easier for us. But I'm going to say that I'm going to give myself until middle of January or first week or so of January before we say that the big thing that's holding us back right now is documentation, which is really a rate determining step that I have to handle. So, and we're tidying up some things.
Right, and that actually ties to the next question. Will instruction be provided, or will sites be expected to pay for training to learn how to use it?
Well, expected to pay for training. Oh, that's interesting. Well, depends on how well you want to use it, I suppose. There will be instruction. It's going to be documented. I mean, in terms of how things work, but methods and things like that, those are hard to communicate. The documentation would have to be hundreds and hundreds of pages to do it right. Generally, the way we work is we find out what you need to do and we help you do that. And that's how we largely make our living, because that's what we do, to utilize this product to its full capability. But we are going to be posting videos to YouTube. We have a YouTube channel that has nothing on it. These presentations will be the first to go up there, but we will be posting things for instance, teachers and other users to be able to do things in to more effectively use their websites as deployed.
Great, great. Thank you. We've got a couple more questions. So I know we're running long, and those of you that can stay on will continue to answer questions as long as they're coming in. If you do need to sign off, I understand, and thank you for joining us. But we're going to continue with questions while we still have some. So there's a question here. For sites that are running older versions of RWD, do they need to go to 5 first, or can they bypass that and upgrade directly to 6?
Go directly to 6. There's no migration like that.
Okay, great. And then for folks that are interested in the FCAS export utility, how and when are you planning to get information out about that? This would be the tool for exporting forms data.
Okay, I tell you what. A lot of the people on this call today came from my from a send out that I did, and Gary, you did one as well on you because this is your presentation. So Gary and I will make sure that you're aware of it. It's something that exists, but we've had several requests, and we're in fact to have a meeting next week with the district that really wants it right away. So we'll package it up and try to figure out exactly how we're going to package it up, and then we'll make people aware of it.
Yeah,
we're getting a lot of interest in it.
Excellent, excellent. Any other questions at this time? All right. Well, thank you again for joining us, and thank you, Mark, for the session this afternoon. And we're getting a bunch of thank yous from the gallery here as well, so thank you. Oh, there is one more question here. Any future work on single sign-on?
Well, First Class 12, now that you mentioned that, I was going to add that. First Class 12, it's very highly likely that you'll have support for a thing called OAuth, which will allow you to send credentials to other things that require credentials, and that effectively is using your existing login. So yes, there will be some support for single sign-on. How it looks and exactly how it works yet, I can't give you a really good answer. Gary, Gary can answer that as probably as well as I can. There's a few things that still have to be figured out, but by and large, I'm confident in saying yes, we will be able to do some form of single sign-on.
Yeah, and that is going to have implications not just for RWD, but for your core first-class experience as well. So the idea that you could have a widget, whether in RWD or after authenticating to your own account, where maybe you're seeing your own personal Twitter feed or you're seeing documents out of your Google Docs account. That is, I have seen some demonstrations, and it looks like that is going to be possible in 12. So, all right. Well, thanks again, everybody. I appreciate your time this afternoon. If you have individual questions, feel free to forward those to either Mark or to me, and we'll be glad to answer those. And we will be getting this presentation up on the web as well if you want to share it with anybody. So thanks again, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you all.